Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, let's get going, man. It is the Wednesday college football and basketball blitz on Sidelines. Rob Browne here with you, broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Check them out on the web, redriverfordtoyota.com. Over 700 used cars, trucks, and SUVs on the lot. And it has been really cold up here, a lot of ice and some snow and just brutally cold temperatures. Great time to come in here to the showroom. Service department open every day, Saturdays, 7 in the morning till 12:30 p.m. Austin Futrell and the team back there are fantastic to work with. We're here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 2 hours each day. www.sidelines.live, and follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. Hope you're having a great Christmas holiday season. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year coming up here. Sunday is New Year's Day. Got a lot of college football. There are bowl games going on everywhere. People on the go. And we got one in Memphis, the Liberty Bowl, Arkansas and Kansas. And I'm telling you what, Dudley, Dawson, hogville.net, batting in the leadoff position. Billy Roberts checking in from over in Atlanta, Brookhaven, not Atlanta. Second segment, Doug Dean, AU Dose out of the Magic City, Birmingham. Top of the second hour, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline down in Oxford, Mississippi. And in the fourth segment, we'll go over to ESPN Coastal in Savannah, home of Miss Wilkes, and just a stone's throw from where my dad served his lovely time in the Army, Fort Stewart, Georgia. Ben Troupe, Gator All-American, 5 years in the NFL, author of a great book, Uncommon and Unfinished, and a collector of some of the finest hats and fedoras of anybody in the civilized world. Let's get started right now. He's over there in the bullpen warming up. Dudley Dawson, Dudley and Billy Roberts. Dudley, Razorbacks and Jayhawks. Going to be a cool game. 15 years, Mark Mangino was the coach at Kansas last time that the Jayhawks played. Arkansas, they've been going to bowls here lately under Sam Pittman. Last year, they're 9-4. This year, they're 6-6. So both teams, especially Arkansas, fighting to have another winning record. And I'm getting texts from people that are saying, like, hey, what is we're getting texts from people that are saying, like, wow, 23 guys in the portal and going, getting out because they're getting ready for the draft and what have you. Curious what's going on with that, but let's talk about the Razorbacks, their preparation for this bowl game against Kansas, and why it's important, other than the fact that you're on scholarship, you're representing the brand, and you need to show up and play with 110% with your teammates, because you're going to remember this the rest of your life. But Dudley, hogville.net, let's go.
Well, obviously you have a situation here, as you mentioned, 23 people have transferred out or have opted out as well. So it's the most interesting thing about this bowl to me, other than the water pressure and situations they have going, is the fact that we're going to get a chance to finally see those young linebackers that have been talked about so much but haven't played just a tremendous amount. You're going to get to see some wide receivers and also a secondary that, it's basically in an audition and a situation where you really look at this. Goes on the 2022 record, but it's a preview of 2023.
Yeah. Dudley, you've talked to a lot of the Razorback players and coaches, I'm sure, getting ready for this bowl game. And I saw when Will Anderson and Bryce Young said, hey, we're going to play for Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. And a lot of people speculated, and they're probably right, maybe Alabama or their agents or their NIL providers got them a Lloyd's of London insurance policy. But those are not that easy to claim, to file a claim on, from what I've been told. The bowl games have got to do everything they can to preserve and protect their brand. But God, 23 guys, the secondary is depleted. What do you think's behind a lot of this, that these guys would not stick it out through the bowl game? I mean, you get a nice, swag bag or whatever you want to call it, but I think that they would just want to play with their teammates and play for Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks, because for the rest of their lives, they're going to remember what they did or didn't do in the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah, Dalton Wagner and Matt Landers are two people that could easily have taken the opt-out route, decided to go ahead and play, and you need to give them a lot of credit. I'm not going to criticize the ones who are not playing too much, and certainly you got to give respect to those ones that I mentioned, and Will Anderson and Bryce Young. But it's what's become of the bowls now. I mean, I've watched about every one I can. There's not been a full crowd at all. In fact, there's just been a smattering of attendance at most of these. And so there's going to have to come to some compromise, because either the bowls are going to retract, there's not going to be as many, or you're going to have a situation once it gets into a 12-team playoff that you're going to have a different way of going about this. And I'm looking forward to the game later today. We had two false fire alarms here last night, so if I appear to be groggy, I am. We got plenty of water over here in where I'm staying in West Memphis, but also got some faulty alarms there, so that was fun. But it's just going to have to be, for these bowls to make sense for the sponsors and for these bowls to make sense for the schools, there's going to have to be some adjustments as we go along in the NIL transfer portal world that we live in now, which had a lot of good thoughts on these things, but in practical purpose have not played out as well as one might have hoped.
Yeah, we had Frank Duffy on yesterday with us, Mr. LSU Tiger, talked about, he has 3 friends at LSU who are participating in their NIL collective. And I think 2 of the guys that they were sponsoring via NIL aren't playing in their bowl game. I would be madder than a bunch of wet hens at that, because, I mean, you and I both are employed by people, Dudley, and Billy Roberts is. You've got to fulfill, your part. And I don't know what loyalty means anymore, as far as working for a company, but you're supposed to work. If you're an employee there, you're supposed to work. And guys just walking off, the job, it's frustrating. But all that being said, you still got to play a game today. KJ Jefferson is coming back, and you're right. This is setting the tone for the 2023 season. All the close games you talked about, Arkansas won last year. They didn't win this year. They're very close to being 9-3 or 10-2 in the regular season. Do you get the feeling among the guys that are going to step on the field against Kansas that they know that what they do sets the tone for those January workouts, spring practice, the summer, and going in the next year? How critical it is that they give everything they have?
The coaches have certainly gotten that mindset to these kids, and they've talked about that. We're going to see once they get out there and get hit, and we'll see how things go. This is 2 teams that combined to lose. Well, combined to start out the year great, 8-0, or if you want to look at it at 8-2, you can, and then skidded home by losing 8 of their last 12 games combined. Yeah. And you've got some that even Kansas has some injuries with guys that, important guys they're not going to play. And then Arkansas, depleted in certain areas. So, as I said, I'm looking forward to watching the young ones play. And I'm looking forward to seeing probably a lot of big plays, not only because of the talent that are on both these teams, but because of the inexperience that's going to be going up against them on defense. I mean, you miss one assignment here. KJ Jefferson, Jalen Daniels, Rocket Sanders, there's going to be some big plays. So I'm looking forward to it. But you do have a situation here that you can talk about it. You can talk about it. But just like Florida went out and and had a lot of people that didn't play and talked about how they were going to do this and do that, and then went out and kicked a field goal to keep from being shut out. So you just never know what's going to happen. But I am excited about seeing a bunch of guys that really the last time I saw them with extended playing time was in high school, get the opportunity to show their wares, if you will.
Yeah. Billy Roberts over in Atlanta. Billy, I don't know if you've got your head out the window or not. We've got some background noise. So
yeah, I'm in the car. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Look, we're talking about this Arkansas-Kansas game and about the number of Arkansas players that aren't playing, but now we're focusing on the ones that are showing up. And what do you think we can do? I know we got, Dudley from hogville.net. He's got the Arkansas perspective, but to make these bowl games to where they can keep the talent, the players from not playing. I mean, how much money can you give them?
Well, money is one thing, but if they're going to professionalize college football, which they're doing with NIL, and they've got to also instill the idea of a contractual obligation that, if you're getting paid, this is kind of a job all of a sudden, and you've got to do your part, which is show up and represent the brand. After all, the NIL money is from people that are passionate and loyal. Let's call them the customer, and you are the service provider. So if you're going to take money, you're obligated to perform a service. So there's got to be some understanding of that, even if you got to make the kid sign something, so he's committed and obligated. But the problem with the bowl system is it proliferated with TV money, and it no longer rewarded excellence. It used to be a reward for a good season, and there weren't that many bowls. They were, and they were established and had tradition. But let's look at Tampa. They got 3 bowls there now. It used to be the one bowl, the Outback Bowl. Now they got something called the Gasparilla Bowl, which, I guess reference Gasparilla Pirate Parade they've had down there for a long time. But, that's got 2 6-6 teams. There's nothing going on there that represents excellence. So there has to be some type of whittling away the dilution that's happened and get back to games that put a good matchup out there with 2 teams that have had a really good season. And if it means, hacking off, the lower tier of 15 or 20 bowls that have proliferated, then so be it. But then also the players that are going to take NIL money, they've got to understand that there's no free lunch. The passionate boosters that gave you that money expect you to show up and enhance the brand, and that's your part of the deal. So I think those are 2 steps that have to happen. Legally, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but it seems like there has to be some piece of paper signed in return for taking that NIL money that commits you to some providing and performing a service.
Dudley?
Yeah, great point. And what I sit here and think about is if you give them all the money up front, and to my understanding, that's what happened a lot at places like Texas A&M and a lot of other places. If they get their money up front, they're not going to finish, if they don't have to. I don't know if there's got to be a bonus situation at the end of the year. Do you give them extra money? Do you give them Jelly of the Month club? You got to do something as an incentive to play. I hate that I'm sitting here saying that because, as you mentioned, the loyalty from our generation, we finished what we started. The old man get out of my yard mentality will come out here in a minute if I keep going. But there's got to be a way that if they're going to make money, they've got to earn the money, not just get it up front. Now, how do you facilitate that? How do you regulate that? I don't know, and apparently nobody does either, because I think it seems like a great idea to have the NIL, but in all practicality, this cannot have gone the way that many administrators and people thought this would, because it's a matter of people taking the money and running.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about it leading up to the NIL, and people criticized me and said, well, I'm a capitalist. I am absolutely all about that. But I just remember a lesson, because you and Billy and I are all the same age. I remember one time when I was a kid, I wanted, remember Big Jim with the karate grill? That was the big deal. I wanted that. and I wanted to go to the Treasury. It was a toy store in Memphis. It was a Monday, and my dad was leaving to go to the office, and Henry B was over there, and I was out working with him and the guys, and I was 12 maybe, yeah. And I wanted this really bad. And he said, boy, he said, you ain't getting your allowance on Monday. You think if we paid the workers on the job on Monday, they'd be there on Friday? And I looked at him. He said, don't ask stupid questions. He goes, get to work. and that's just, and you know what? I got no time for that BS. And I've got, my kids actually, Billy knows them. And Dudley, you know how this is, actually got a compliment recently for being so tough on them. And I was like going, look, y'all, my kids love me. And I know Billy's daughter's the same way. He's tough as nails on her. Dudley, you're from Balch, Arkansas, Newport. You grew up farming. You're a very smart guy. I mean, you've been on the show with us for like the last 9 months or so. You are a very, very bright guy. I guarantee your kids all work.
Absolutely. One of them used to work for Creative Artists Agency and Jimmy Sexton and those guys. So, what was great though was we couldn't talk about a lot of stuff because that was his job and all that. He works for Foundations Music now. My other one works in the animal field, taking care of pets and all that. So, and then I have two others that, as you say, are taking care of their business, that they were taught the right way to do things. Certainly as I made mistakes while growing up, they made a couple, but for the most part, the mindset and mentality that my parents passed along.
Hold that thought, because I want to get back to because this is the point. People think it's crazy to say it. They need to hear it. Kids want structure, and that's what NIL is all about. We're going to be right back with more after this quick break.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Dudley, you were on a roll before we had to take the break. My producer and wife here, Mildred, told me we had to take the break, but about what your parents taught you growing up. And then I've got several questions that have come in via text from listeners out there we'll get to after this.
Well, you're smart and you follow direction well. So, good for you. But right. I was basically, one of the things I was talking about was my parents were raised with values. They passed them on to me, and then I did my absolute best to pass them on to my kids. Now, sometimes I think that my son Brooks may be more responsible and mature than I am in his early 30s than, I am at 59. But for the most part, I think that, the whole concept of spare the rod, spoil the child was pretty good back in the day. Now, I didn't like it when the paddle or the belt or the switch was hitting my butt, but I learned a lot. And I'm not saying I'm for that now, just, everybody calm down, but because it's a different society. But I do know that we had a job, we finished the job. There wasn't as much money involved, but there still was the same principle. And while I'm not going to criticize too much people for opting out and all that, I do think that some of these folks could very easily have stuck to their guns and play. And as we were going back to say, if it's going to be professionalized, if you're going to take money, then it's got to somehow be, you have to finish the job to get it. If it comes in installment payments, all that, you got to figure it out. But if you're going to get that last check in, then you got to play the last game, to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, Billy and I, were roommates at Auburn. He's from LaGrange, Georgia. There's 17 Auburn degrees in his family from 13 people. His father's a Florida Gator. Of course, he was born in Key West. What a great place to grow up. But I just think about, I went to CBHS in Memphis, Catholic education, with the Christian Brothers. Had men like Billy Canali from the Canali family in Memphis. Genetically, I don't think there's another family like them. They had 4 boys in one of the Canali families that all played in the NFL. Amazing people. Coach Tom Nix, Coach Reed, Brother Joel, Brother Stephen. I mean, you'd go in there and try to pull rank on those guys. They're LaSallian brothers. They'd look at you and you'd say, your family has all this money or whatever like that, blah, blah, blah. And they'd say, are you through? I'd say, I tell you what, back when I was there, this school's been in business for 111 years. And I answered to that guy, had a crucifix, up above him. He'd say, tell you what, you say you've got a good tile business, you sell cars. Why don't you focus on that? And we'll raise your son to be a man, or he'll either make it or he won't. But you're not going to come in here and tell me what to do. And you have athletic directors in high school telling me now, parents are coming in when the kids are in 7th and 8th grade, talking about where they should play their son on the high school team, at the 1 or the 2. And the athletic director's looking at them going like, I mean, is this real? I mean, but I'm for hardcore discipline. I think it works. No question. And the way you were raised and Billy was raised, Billy's dad is amazing. He's an engineer. He's 87, 88, Billy. And the guy can fix and do anything. But discipline and values, without them, you don't have a civilization. This came from Billy Ray Valentine. This is a question for Billy and Billy Ray Valentine. Yes.
So high.
Yeah. But with the emergence of interest in the smaller schools, which is happening, translate into featuring them in the bowl game venues due to lack of attendance from fans of the larger schools who feel like, that's kind of a letdown to go to that bowl. I think Billy Ray Valentine is on to something. You see, he's already made us a profit, Mortimer. Yes.
I hear you. And that's got to be
point.
Attendance and money and excitement has to be a factor in the bowl. I love coming to Memphis. I grew up closer to Memphis than I did to Little Rock, so I spent more time over here than I did in Little Rock, and so I love coming here. Love the history and all that. But sometimes it gets a bad rap, and so it's probably the stadium's not going to be full in Arkansas because they went 6-6. Didn't sell its entire allotment of that. But you have to find ways, if the bowl system is going to continue, to create excitement, to create, let's be honest, to create an economic impact for these bowls, because it's not only about the bowl itself, it's about bringing people to town, them spending money and boosting up your economy.
Yeah. Billy, speaking of Billy Ray Valentine, Billy Roberts, your thoughts on that? I think that idea is something that's going to gain traction going forward.
Well, no doubt. I mean, the all of the bowls that have been added on, and let's call it in the last 30 years, is probably ESPN and TV money made that happen. Now, I, for one, am grateful for all the extra bowl games because it gives you something to watch on TV during a dead period after Christmas and before New Year's. So I'm happy with that. And I'll watch Arkansas all day long. It's an SEC team I'm familiar with. I'm scouting them for next year and see what they've got. But I like that idea of, these extra bowls that are not let's call them the not traditional bowls. The Gasparilla Bowl, like we talked about a minute ago, or the Poulon Weed Eater Bowl in Shreveport, those need to feature teams that are thrilled to go and the fans are excited to go. So if that's how they adapt and survive, then that's a great thing. I think that should be what their mission is, because the bowls did get created to drive tourism, for fans to have a reason to travel and spend money and go somewhere. That's exactly what it was for. And a town like Memphis with the Liberty Bowl, a lot of tradition there. There's a lot of things to do in Memphis. It's certainly a town where, you can go spend a 4-day weekend and have something to do every day. I personally have been to Graceland probably a dozen times and have taken coworkers that have never been, there, and they always are blown away by it, the ones that have not been before. So that's just one example in Memphis of something very compelling to go do that Memphis is famous for. So, yeah, absolutely, the Bowls could adapt and survive, and then they got the TV money, too. They're bringing in a couple million eyeballs, watching on television. So, but, when a team goes and the fans aren't interested because they feel like it's a bit of a come down. I mean, a couple of years ago, Alabama was in the Sugar Bowl, and there was a disappointment because they weren't in the national championship game, and they didn't have anybody show up. And was that the one they got beat by Oklahoma, right? How many years ago was that?
Yeah, well, that was 2013.
Yeah, I mean, good God, the Sugar Bowl when we were in school, Rob, that was like the pinnacle. I mean, that was something that was a huge accomplishment if your team – was representing the SEC in the Sugar Bowl, and the fact that they saw that as kind of a slap in the face or not worthy of their time, and an opponent like Oklahoma, traditional blue blood opponent, it was shocking to me that they weren't excited about going. But they've been to New Orleans 30 times probably, and figured they didn't want to go down there 31. I don't know, but I thought that was crazy. So even the Sugar Bowl is not immune from this dilution of product and enthusiasm.
Yeah, Dudley, along that lines, you, again, Memphis, as a Memphian growing up here, we're right on, across the river from Arkansas. So we're Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. We used to have a basketball team called the TAMs, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, in the old WBA. It means, like, today, I think there'll be it's going to be 54 degrees. It's going to be sun's coming out. It's been cold. A lot of people might just drive over day of and roll the dice. I'm going to a tailgate that starts at noon. I mean, we're going to be getting revved up, for a while before 4:30 kickoff. I mean, but it's to me, something's going to happen. The free market will work it. Hey, if solar panels were the thing to do, the private sector would have embraced them decades ago. The only time they ever appear is when the government dumps money in people's laps. They don't work. I mean, the free market will figure this thing out because there's money to be made, isn't there?
Both of these football programs with Kansas and Arkansas are better off than they were a few years ago. That's a definite thing, but still they're not as popular as right now as their two basketball teams. If you could have found a way to play a basketball game at halftime, you might have sold the thing out, because of the excitement there. Or if you could have bought back an Eddie Money hologram, would have been fun. I remember Eddie Money being the guest last time. Where like Starship is today. I'm excited about that. Well, So, I listened to a lot of their music growing up.
Me too.
But yeah, it's a far different world than we used to live in terms of bowls. I think there became too many proliferation of bowls got going there. But just as everything else does, you're going to adapt, you're going to figure it out, or you're going to go away. It's that easy.
Yeah. Well, for Arkansas, going to this, Arkansas is the 23rd winningest team in college football history. And that's a tradition-rich program. They're looking for that magical season. And you know what? They're not, it's not like they got blown out in every game. What was the worst defeat for Arkansas this year was the Mississippi State loss?
Yes. Mentality wise, it was Texas A&M because they should have won that ball game. And that might have made a lot better season for them. But yes, competitive wise, KJ did not play in that Mississippi State game. Malik Hornsby, current free agent, is looking for a place, and he certainly had some big plays there. But yes, that was their most non-competitive one, although you could probably throw Liberty in there as well. Because Liberty fell off the earth after that, after that big win from them. But it's just I suspect they'll show up. They'll play with pride. I know Kansas will. Kansas is very excited. I've talked to the players and coaches, during the run up to this, and this is their Super Bowl as well. It should be. No bowl games in 14 years. A lot of seniors there who have not had anything like this experience before. So, Arkansas had better show up with the mentality to play that it says it has, or, as we've watched on TV during this bowl season, the teams that want to be there play well. The teams that don't usually don't.
Yeah, I'll just say this before we let you go. We got Doug Dean coming up. I think of Kansas. I think of Granny. Remember Granny in the movie The Outlaw, Josie Wales?
Mm-hmm.
She was tough, and that's the Jayhawks. I'm a Jayhawk, so they're coming to play. But Dudley, look, man, looking forward to having you on next week. But as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us on Sidelines. We absolutely appreciate it so much, and you really know what you're talking about. But you've got a lot of wisdom and wit about you. Tell people how they can follow you, the great work you do, and your legendary Twitter handle.
Hogville.net is my employer, or at least one of them, the main one, and that's the best Arkansas website. We cover everything. We've got a guy who will have the LSU basketball game tonight as Arkansas opens the season, opens the conference season at LSU. Also, Fearless Friday, which we've shifted to a basketball focus now as we go along here. And then my Twitter handle is Dead Sports, not DEAD Sports, but DED for Dudley E. Dawson Sports. And lots of personal Cardinal, Cowboy, and Celtic stuff on there.
It's hard to go wrong with that. Dudley, thank you. I'll see you at the game today. I'm gonna meet up with you. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Take care. Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net. All right. Let's switch gears. Head down to Birmingham. Let's go to the phones. Mildred. Speaking of fossil fuels and fossils, Doug Dean, AU Daily Dose down in the Magic City. Oh, it's been cold down here. No clean water.
Good morning. Belated Merry Christmas, Rob, to you and Audrey and Jimmy and Duff, the great Duff, and everyone else. You have a good Christmas?
Oh, man, Christmas is the greatest day of the year. They're all great, and eating a lot of good food. Been cold, but you know what? Wouldn't have it any other way. We live in America, greatest country in the world, and we got you on the show. We got Billy on the show. Got Mildred, my producer here in Delta. It's a great day.
Well, listen, speaking of fossil fuels or fuels in general, I've got a bone to pick with. I was hoping maybe they could become a sponsor, Suburban Propane, but I'm down here in Dallas County, and if outdoorsmen who know that, you don't Alabama Gas and Energy, they don't run the gas lines all the way out here in the country. So what do you have? A 200, 500 gallon propane tank. And Suburban, if you're listening, I'm going to have to turn to Hank Hill or something, because we're down to 10% left in the propane tank. And it was 27 degrees. I mean, we know what we're doing down here in the wild. We'd just rather it be comfortable, right?
Yeah, well, you're down in the Black Belt, man. It gets cold down there, and you talk about cold. It was 2 degrees Friday morning.
Yeah,
up in parking at the Cherry Farm, trying to heat that house. I mean, it's 42 degrees in the house, and I think we've learned, heating and air units. They what they can and can't do. You better have a lot of firewood. I mean, y'all been building fires?
Well, yeah, we can certainly turn to that when we need to, but I think, to be fair, Suburban's supposed to get here today. Don't you love the new approach we all are struggling to staff and our workforces, and I don't know where all the workers went.
Yeah.
But mostly their attitudes went, if you will. But we just, when they tell you our delivery time for propane is between 7 and 10 days, which means between 10 and 14 days if things are fortunate. But hey, Billy is the perfect compadre to add to the mix on a question I've got. If you had a furtive glance, that's a good word, isn't it, Rob? Furtive glance at the Birmingham Bowl. Not our most shining hour in attendance last night, but I couldn't help but chuckle. And congrats to East Carolina for laying a whooping on Coastal, but the Battle of the Carolinas. But the ESPN camera guys, you can bet their producer is skilled at saying, "Don't you dare pan over to the stands and show the total 100 fans who decided to come out for this." Admittedly, it was a cold evening, temps dropping, but I think there's the 12-team playoff could not be coming at a more desperate time to breathe some life back into these lesser bowl games. Now, that'll all change, obviously, New Year's Eve when we get to have two semis. Those stadiums will surely be packed. But I'd be curious, Billy, from a marketing standpoint, what are some things that can be done to, if we're going to keep these lesser bowls, to breathe some attention?
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. Mildred, my producer, just showed me the stopwatch. We're going to be back. And Billy Roberts, I want you to answer that question from Doug Dean about the bowls after this quick commercial break.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, let's don't skip a beat. Billy, what can be done to make the bowls better per Doug Dean's question regarding like last night's Birmingham Bowl?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is what a great job the SEC has done having that SEC fan experience in Atlanta surrounding the SEC championship at the Mercedes Stadium. There's a ton of stuff to do. It's very kid friendly. The media participates. They do, interviews in the day or two leading up to the game. And it turns it into like a 3-day festival. So, that kind of festival environment needs to be packaged around the game. You guys are talking about concerts the other day. A little while ago, kind of getting more value for your ticket that you're paying for to get fans to come and stay in the city and spend money, because after all, that was what the idea for the bowl was. Secondly, to get at least one of the school's fans to be excited and soak up all the tickets, you might need to elevate a team that's, in that second tier, like a Coastal Carolina or even a Jackson State, and have them play a premier SEC school like in Arkansas, in a game like that. And, their fans are going to be excited for that opportunity and that exposure to play a top school. A big time SEC school. So, and the reason I say that is a couple years ago in the Peach Bowl here in Atlanta on New Year's Day at 10:30 in the morning, it was the kickoff. I'm not kidding about that. It was ridiculous. Auburn played Central Florida, and they had a chance to have an undefeated season, and they sold out 70% of the stadium, all of their allotment, and half of the Auburn ticket allotment. Auburn kind of didn't want to be there. A bunch of guys opted out. We had beaten Alabama and Georgia that year and sat on the sidelines while they played in the championship game. So our, consolation prize was the Peach Bowl against Central Florida, who was undefeated and wanted to try to claim a piece of the national championship by continuing to be. And they played hard, and Auburn did not. But the thing that struck me was the Central Florida fans came there in droves. It was a chance to come up from Orlando to Atlanta. And they had that stadium holds, 67, 70 something thousand people. And I guess they had 60,000 there, and Auburn had about 10 or 12,000. Auburn always supports their team. They travel well, but that particular game was a letdown, and the kickoff time was terrible. And the enthusiasm for Central Florida was overwhelming. And, Auburn woke up in the fourth quarter and realized with Stidham at quarterback that they were in a game, and they tried hard to make a game of it and tie it up in the fourth quarter and fell short. but Central Florida was going bonkers the whole time. It was a great atmosphere, and they made it that way. So I think a team like that getting rewarded with a premier bowl got their fans excited, and they traveled and spent a lot of money. So that's two things that come to mind. Mimic the SEC fan experience, a type of festival atmosphere that the SEC created in Atlanta for the championship game, and then secondly, elevate a team in that second tier that's had a really good season, that's maybe a 10-win season, and pit them against a traditional powerhouse team, and you'll sell a bunch of tickets that way.
Rob, I got to tell you, appoint this man, Billy Roberts, czar of marketing for the lesser bowls. They don't need Billy's help in the playoff and the 4-team now, and much less the 12-team down the road. But I think an interesting question as we move forward is what will be the fan engagement and the revenue and the marketing implications of the 12-team playoff. You got to figure some good handful of bowls will be the beneficiary of those being really, really relevant games that people will pay good money to go to. Eyeballs will be on the TV. But what about the bulk when you go below that level? And I think Billy's got some great ideas.
Well, along those lines, we had Billy Ray Valentine texted us from, yes, Billy Ray from Tuscaloosa texted us in the first segment with Dudley Dawson of hogville.net. So what about elevating these smaller schools? Could you imagine in these bowl games, Kansas and Arkansas, those two schools, that Memphis has got the water situation. They're going to have 500 porta-johns, there. So you'll have toilets and everything. They got water. They got everything you need. But under normal circumstances, that game probably would have 55 or 60,000, close to a sellout. But let's say you took a game like the Birmingham Bowl and you took a team from the SEC that thinks, well, God, we don't really want to be there. Perhaps you bring in a team like, say, Missouri, and then you bring in North Dakota State. Of course, they have a playoff, but still you bring a lesser school. That other school is going to be fired up, and you start seeing a trend of them beating the hell out of these SEC teams. That'll get interest going because they'll start, so you do whatever you got to do. But I got to say a classic example of a guy who made it real public. He doesn't want to be there. In the portal, Grayson McCall, the quarterback for Coastal Carolina. Did you see at the end of the game? He went out of that game kind of early. I don't know how he was hurt or whatever. He looked like a leper with the virus over there on the bench. Nobody wanted to be around him. You know what? You don't want to be here. I wouldn't have let him dress out. I would not have let him play for my team. I would have said, hey, if you're not on this team, I don't need you. Okay? I don't need your attitude. I don't need your prima donna-ness. Good luck. Go find something else to do with your time. I've had it with all this stuff. That's the approach. People say, you can't do that with these kids. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. And you better start doing it because enough of this trying to be friends with your players. 18, 19-year-old kids, I don't care what generation it is, they can't be calling the shots. That's why NIL will die on its own, just like the portal will. Trust me on this one. I forecast and I study trends and markets and all. Man, in the late 90s, people remember every commercial was about who needs a financial advisor. You can throw darts at the wall and pick stocks. Yeah, until the NASDAQ melted down in March of 2000. You know what? It's all about customer behavior. And in this case, the fans are the free market. This stuff is all you watch. In a few years, NIL people will look back and it'll be so rare, people will hardly talk about it.
Rob, yeah, I knew we couldn't start the new year without a Rob Browne rant, social rant, and I love it.
Wow.
Three old men yelling at a cloud. No, everything you said has merit, and what is interesting. I'm not sure every fan stops to think that the monumental Supreme Court ruling approving compensation for name, image, and likeness merely made it legal for a college so-called amateur athlete to earn money within those constraints, but it in no way required, this is the important thing, the signal, not the noise, in no way required colleges to pay NIL through collectives or otherwise. So to your point, right now, I would say it looks like a continuation of the haves and have-nots. The programs that were able previously, what was the currency? The currency was facilities, arms races, and you've still got that. Billy will have great take on this, but those were amenities players had, and let's be real, programs were finding ways through the dark shadows of dirty money, pay for play that we never heard about because the NCAA enforcement is an oxymoron. But now it's out in the open, and let's see if we end up with, is it going to be 20 teams and everybody else just playing for fun, the love of the game, or will NIL, as you're kind of predicting, Rob, will it start to dry up because we see the implications of not being able to build a team and have any continuity because in the offseason, one of your star players hears that he just might get $1 million NIL if he transfers somewhere?
Billy Roberts, Doug Dean makes great points. And along that line, we all know in the employment, I like what Doug said a minute ago about all these workers that have disappeared. Well, their attitudes certainly have. And what do we always say? 95% of life is showing up with a positive attitude.
Yep.
And Billy, I love your take. I asked Rick Neuheisel in Birmingham last year at the Nick Saban, at the Saban Legacy Award. And the recipients were Steve Spurrier and the family of the late Eddie Robinson, the legendary Grambling coach. And I asked him, I said, would you be the commissioner of college football? He's an attorney, Rick is. Yep. He said, absolutely. Well, I want you on his staff. And Doug and I will be up there with you too. We'll be on the board. But Billy, elaborate on what Doug Dean said, because Doug deals with people for a living. He values people. And he's a great writer. He's a great technical writer, like Maury Gaston is. But I think we're on to something. I'm totally, this isn't like, hey, this is cool. I think this is actionable intelligence that's probably going to happen.
Well, the NIL, just like any kind of, change to the status quo, the pendulum inevitably swings too far, and then it settles back, and corrections are made, guardrails go up, regulations, appear, because it can't be the Wild West, it can't be anarchy. There's too much money and too much tradition for, it just to melt down in the matter of a few short seasons to anarchy. And, there will be some structure that appears, the NCAA isn't capable of doing that, I guess. And, it looks like it'll be up to the Power Five, schools to kind of create a semblance of structure and rules. So I think with the NIL, we were talking about earlier in the segment, some type of structured payment, where you get a tranche of money every couple of months. You don't just get $1 million handed to you, even, in a lawsuit settlement, if somebody's been in a car wreck or something like that, a lot of times they structure those payments so that they'll have money to pay for unforeseen medical expenses, years down the road. So even if it's a 20-year-old person injured in a car wreck, rather than hand them, $6 million, those are typically structured payments so that they have lifelong care, that'll be paid for. So, 20-year-olds don't know everything. They think they do. My daughter, your kids are all around the same age, and they're smart. They're smarter than we were at that age. But you don't hand somebody with that lack of experience, a significant amount of money and then expect them to go out and buy T-bills with it, right? They're going to do silly things with the money. It's not going to last. They're going to have a bunch of advisors appear among their family and friends to help them, find creative ways to spend that money. And there's going to be so many cautionary tales that pop up on that side of things about, street agents and advisors and, I'll just use the blanket term hustlers that are going to relieve them of that money. And if these kids end up having, concussions and things like that because they played football, wouldn't it be great that, they made a few $1 million in NIL money, and they had the ability to tap into that at 40 years old or later when some of those health problems occur. I mean, in the NFL right now, you're seeing that with Tua down in Miami. It's at his third concussion. That guy basically needs to quit playing.
Yeah.
Right. And he's been fortunate enough to make enough money, to life-changing money. But if he was at Alabama and had that third concussion and didn't have a chance to make that life-changing money, there would be, oh, what a tragedy. So the NIL, helps mitigate some of that potential tragedy. A guy, played his heart out, but he had, serious injuries and had a chance to make a little bit of money even in college before he had to hang it up and call it a day. So there will be some sobering, moments where people said, I made $2 million in NIL money as a young guy, but I didn't have the intelligence and the maturity to do something smart with it. And now I don't have that money and I'm 31 and, I'm having problems, in life or with health, whatever. That's where this, is going to go. The pendulum will swing back and it'll correct and guardrails will be put in place, but not right now. There's going to have to be some tragedies and some cautionary tales to force everybody to, put some rules around this. It can't be just, anarchy.
Yeah. And I think age-banded trusts are a great idea. Doug.
There you go. Absolutely.
Doug, let's talk about Auburn, what Hugh Freeze is doing. We've been hearing a lot of freeze warnings up here and where you are lately, but on a 1 to 5, 1 being, he did nothing different than Bryan Harsin, 5 being, wow, Auburn's back in business after 2 years of a closed for business, going out of business sign up in the window.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for pivoting to that because I assume at least a smattering of people tune in to my segment to see if there's anything top of mind about the Auburn Tigers. And, we all understand that we're chasing Georgia and Alabama. And once again, they dominate recruiting at the 1 and 2 rankings or thereabouts. So that's the trend line that means the most in terms of immediately being able to compete for national championships. But if you want to look at, adjust for circumstances, which were dire, thanks first to Gus Malzahn letting a lot of areas of recruiting like offensive line go to hell his last few years, and then Bryan Harsin doing nothing to change that. And Bryan Harsin, let's say it, I promised you and Jimmy my derision of Bryan Harsin would only run through the end of 22, but so I'm running out of time. But I think there was a streak of Rob. I don't know if it was hard-headedness or laziness that Harsin thought that just because I was a legend at Boise, for God's sake, that players would line up to sign with Auburn, and I could just be they get 5 minutes with me like an audience with the Pope at the end of their official visit, and they're going to be so wowed by meeting Bryan Harsin that they'll want to sign immediately. It was laughable, and Hugh Freeze comes in with only 2 or 3 weeks to work with and vaults Auburn from 50-ish. We might have gotten to mid-40s when he was named coach. And I wasn't a Freeze guy, but I'm coming around, believe me. And he vaults us all the way up to 16, 17, depending on the service you get. And most impressively, flipping from the likes of Ohio State, a surging Florida State program with Keldrick Falk, who's going to be a stud. That's a top 100 player. Another player from Tennessee, which has had a great year. So Bryan Hart, and now get this, he's probably going to go after as many as 20 more players, and this will amount, Rob and Billy, to about a 50% flipping of this Auburn roster, which Fabianich, who was there from the Cowboys, told people privately Auburn needed to flip about 50% of the roster.
Yeah. Well, look, we're about to take a break. We're going to come back a few more minutes with you, Doug. I love this. And this just came in from Levon Helm in Marvel, Arkansas. Announcing you are going to the portal is like announcing to your wife you want a divorce. It doesn't happen without consequences. And I think what we've seen is Hugh Freeze, positive attitude, positive karma. Hey, man, like I say, 95% of life showing up with a positive attitude and asking for the business. More after this with Doug Dean and Billy Roberts.
Hey, y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. We are back with Doug Dean, AU Dose, down in Dallas County, down in the Black Belt of Alabama. One of the most beautiful, my favorite parts of Alabama and America. Billy Roberts over in Brookhaven, not Atlanta. Rob Browne and Mildred, my producer, here in Wynne, Arkansas, Red River Ford Toyota. And listeners all over the place. A lot of them down there listening on 30A, man. It's going to be nice this week. The sun's out. That's when they make all the postcards. And Doug Dean, you're on a roll. And let's get the wild thing going again, because you are like E.F. Hutton. When you speak, people listen.
Nonsense, but I can gab a little bit. You know what's fun about when a year ends, and my goodness, did 2022 just blow by us? Yeah. I'm a believer in the Einstein's theory of relativity. Rob, when you and I were 30 years old, each year in terms of perception was 1/30th. You following me? And
yeah.
I'm not going to give you the denominator now as I sit, because I don't like it. But it just, perception-wise, the years fly by. But as the year ends, it's fun to look at the coming year, 2023, and say, "What? I don't have the answers, but I know a few, and y'all can add to it. What are some of the big questions heading into 2023?" Before we get there, the question's going to be, would you take Georgia or the field in this playoff? And I have yet to meet anybody that wants the field. But I will say this, and not to make Lauren Smith or any of my Georgia buddies mad, I'm not in any way predicting either Ohio State or Michigan. I think it'll be Michigan, not to dismiss TCU. They're a fun team with Max Duggan, but I think the Michigan-Georgia matchup would intrigue me, because Michigan works hard to be really physical. I'd still pick Georgia, but after that, a couple of the questions to me, does Georgia begin what looks like the heir apparent dynasty, which Alabama can claim in the last 10 or 12 years? I guess that's the smart money, but then you've got obviously Saban's number one signing class tells you he has no intention of going away quietly. He's going to, with apologies to Dylan Thomas, he's going to rage against the dying of the light. So another question is, will LSU or Tennessee take the next big step? They managed to beat the mighty Crimson Tide this year, which gave Georgia a big assist in not having to play a real football team, if you ask me, and until the playoffs. Then other questions, who else is going to take a big step in the SEC? Can the Auburn Tigers start to show signs of life after recruiting well? Can Arkansas take another big step? Because I like a lot of what Sam Pittman's doing there. And then on the East, is anybody besides Tennessee going to step up and play big boy football to challenge Georgia in the East, even as Texas and Oklahoma will be set to join us in here? So a lot of questions going into next year. And here's hoping 2023 will make it more interesting than just it's only Alabama and Georgia and everybody else has to just hope for a brighter future.
Yeah, if I'm picking stocks, and I do that for a living, I'll buy Auburn. Deep discount value. Basically, Auburn's been sitting over there for a couple of years. They cut the dividend. Now they've the board just met and they raised the dividend. So I think Auburn is back in business. Yeah, it ain't gonna happen overnight, but Auburn's back in business, and I think I say that honestly. The people that I trust the most with Auburn, and you're one of them, and Billy too. I asked people early on about this recruiting thing, and they were right. It didn't get any better; it got worse. But thank God you've got Trevon Reed and people like that are still there who love Auburn with every inch of their body to make things better. So it'll work out. I think Tennessee is really committed. We're going to be with Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report Mark Ham today at the Liberty Bowl. He's going with us, and my son Wilson. But and Florida's the one that puzzles me because I like Billy Napier so much, but they've got some DNA problems left behind from Dan Mullen. But hey, Doug, look, we got you welcome to stay on with us, Doug. We'd love to have you stay on. We got Yancy Porter coming on with us from Rebel Yell Hotline down in Oxford, Mississippi. It's 2 syllables, Mississippi. So stay with us. We'd love for you to do it because Dudley.
Just a couple of minutes, Rob.
Yeah. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch it Monday nights, 6 to 7 p.m. Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi, all over the great state of Mississippi. Less than 3 million, but about as generous and kind and philanthropic a group of people as there is on God's green earth. Yancy, Merry Christmas. Havamus football. The white smoke is emerging from the beacon on the square. It's breakfast time.
Well, it's if you eat at the beacon every day, you better be running about 3 to 5 miles a day with it.
That's right. You're gonna need a scooter.
That's right.
All right, let's talk some Rebels, man. And got the bowl game coming up. Let's talk about that matchup. And then we're going to go from there because we got recruiting to talk about and a lot of stuff to talk about.
Well, I think with the matchup, first of all, it's a good matchup for Ole Miss in the retrospect that A&M's weaknesses are Ole Miss's strengths. And by that, I mean they don't do a very good job of stopping the run. As you know, Ole Miss does an outstanding job running the football. I believe A&M is 110th overall. Texas Tech. I got the SEC on my mind.
I was going to say, wait a minute.
The Red Raiders. Yeah, actually, one of my 3 best friends is a huge Texas Tech fan.
Yeah.
So we've been ribbing each other the last week, but they do a poor job of stopping the run. Ole Miss does a good job running the ball, and then as much as the 3-2-6 defense gets criticized by the Ole Miss fans, it does match up good against spread teams like Texas Tech. That's more of a finesse offense that really likes to spread the ball around. So, it is a good matchup, I think. But, Ole Miss will have to show up to play. Texas Tech won their last 3 games when they returned their starting quarterback from an injury. They do have a lot of momentum, and Ole Miss does not. They lost their last 3 games. I think it's an important game because there's such high expectations for next season, next year for Ole Miss, and end the season like they did this year. This to kind of give them a little momentum going into that 23 campaign.
Yeah. Doug Dean?
Rob, can I put a question to Yancy?
Yeah, I went to you.
Thank you. I had a little interruption in the stream for a second. Yancy, first of all, Doug Dean in Birmingham, I want to compliment the analysis you've brought to the table all year long, not just about Ole Miss or great baseball championship and their football a successful year. You always want to win every single game, but you bring a lot of high IQ analysis to the discussion. So props to you. But my question, Yancy, goes to what I think this is a sort of mythology, and it's not altogether fair to the great coach Lane Kiffin, but sort of the book on Lane is that he leans more to working the transfer portal to build his roster than he does just traditional high school recruiting. Which, first of all, explain do you agree with that? Can you rebut that or put it in better perspective? Because at Auburn, as you know, we find ourselves having to short-term really lean heavy on the portal to kind of flip and rebuild the roster. Your thoughts on that whole philosophical question?
Well, if you're an Ole Miss spot, you gotta understand where you are, right? This is not Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, traditional powerhouse recruiting programs. Yes, we saw Freeze do that when he, was at Ole Miss and when he turned in top 5 classes, but they were not in a position to build the program. Lane wanted to win now. So if you want to win now, you've got it at your disposal, right? And that's what Freeze is doing there at Auburn. Rob knows, we've had many talks about Freeze's background, and I told him, that they're in good hands, and Ole Miss has to get to where they want to be quickly. They got to use the transfer portal. There's a reason why you have coaching changes, and that's because the last coach, for the most part, and sometimes there's coaching changes where there's been success from the previous coach, but that was not Ole Miss's case. Flipping the page from Matt Luke to Lane Kiffin. So, Lane wants to build through the portal, but you got to understand too, Ole Miss only had 20 available scholarships going into this class, and that included the portals that left Ole Miss. If the guys had not left Ole Miss, they would only had 5 spots open because it's a very young team. So they had 15 guys go to the portal, which gave them 20 scholarships. They signed the fewest amount of high school prospects in the SEC this year with 12. Now, 7 of those 12 players were top 300 guys. So the quality was really good. A lot of Ole Miss fans were upset they didn't sign more high school guys. But when you only have 20 scholarships available and you're really trying to put the finishing touches for next year, because they've got 17 starters returning next year, including their quarterback. So there's a lot of high expectations for next year's team. And he signed 12 guys, several that they think that can really make an impact next year, including at that linebacker position, which is a really big position of need there with Sunterra and Parkins, who's arguably the top linebacker in the country. And so he wanted to fill out the rest of the class with portals. Wide receiver was maybe even more of a bigger position than need than the linebacker spot. They feel like they got the 2 top wide receivers in the portal in the country there, and Andre Harris out of Trey Harris out of Louisiana Tech, and Chris Marshall out of A&M. So, they're going in that portal again. I think they're doing a good job. I think right now, as far as the goals, they want to get a backup quarterback. Right now, they really don't have one, because Dent has graduated early. He surprised folks. He graduated as a junior. And then, as we all know, Luke Altmaier went in the portal himself. He wants to go find a starting job. So, yes, Lane does like the portal. I think, he kind of came at the right time for Ole Miss, because he's kind of ahead of the curve in that retrospect. But, yes, they're still going to build their guys to the high school ranks. But I think like the year after the 2024 class, you're going to see when they have a lot more slots come available, they'll start easing their way less on the portal and more on the high school prospects.
Fantastic take. I'm going to get out here, Rob, but I would say this to Yancy's point: the fact of Ole Miss and the SEC West bringing back a lot of experience, and maybe Kiffin's best recruitment was retaining what arguably is the best running back, Judkins, coming back next year, if I remember right. So I would be bullish on Ole Miss heading into next year.
Yeah. I think it's hard to disagree with that. Doug, look, thanks so much. Stay warm down there. Warm temperatures are on the way. It's going to be 65 over the weekend up here, and between Thursday and Tuesday in Wynn near Memphis, 3.6 inches of rain expected, a couple inches in Memphis. But, man, great commentary from Doug Dean, the AU Dose, and look forward to having you on here again next few days.
Happy New Year, guys.
Take care,
Happy
Doug.
New Year. All right, Yancy, you start breaking it down. You got 17 starters, and you had said about, well, let me just say this. If your school was one of the schools with a head coach that was being considered for the Auburn job, Ole Miss and Liberty. Look what happened to the end of the season for those schools. Ole Miss lost 4 of their last 5. Liberty lost, I think, all their games after they beat Arkansas 21-19 on the road in Fayetteville. Again, Lane Kiffin, it looks like he wants to be at Ole Miss for a long time. The high school talent in Mississippi is really strong. You got 17 junior colleges down there. He's got a process that he follows of getting guys out of the portal, and he gets guys that come in and they contribute in almost every case. Quinshon Judkins, the job he did last year of getting him, again, 35 minutes from Auburn's campus, Alabama, Auburn, they let this guy go. And he's, arguably the best running back, like Doug Dean said, in the SEC. You lost your offensive line coach. Talk about the replacement at that position, because we all know it all starts at breakfast at the Beacon. No, it all starts up front.
Well, first of all, they feel like they got North Carolina State's offensive line coach, and he has an outstanding background. Obviously, they got one of their offensive linemen that's expected to be a first-round draft pick, another offensive lineman expected to be a second-round draft pick. He's had success wherever they've been. Luckily for the new offensive line coach, they returned 4 out of their 5 starters. 3 of them have got multiple years SEC experience. He's in a good spot. They're going after Ethan White. Nick Savage, the strength coach there at Ole Miss. Ethan White's all-SEC guard returner for Florida that went in the portal. Nick Broker, he's going early in the draft this year. So they hope that he can maybe fill his shoes. If not, Eli Acker, who's had a lot of the starting experience in the past there at Ole Miss, could fill those shoes if Ethan does not come. But, in the line of scrimmage, we talked about the defensive line last year. Rob, they returned 16 defensive linemen on the team. So on the line of scrimmage, you only lose 2 starters, 1 on each side of the line of scrimmage there. They're in a good spot there. They possibly return the top 2 running backs. Zach Evans is going to make a final decision once he gets his NFL draft grade back after the bowl game. He's been trying to work out an NIL deal with Ole Miss, which tells you that he could be leaning on coming back. So if he does, that running game there with Zach and Judkins is going to be very formidable. You return your quarterback there, which will help that offensive line. Again, there's going to be huge. We all knew last year there was a lot of transition, and that's why he went so heavy in the portal last year, is because he didn't want to have kind of a rebuilding season. But everything was pointed towards this 2023 season. And, on paper, it should be one of the best in the country. So this game to me is kind of that boost, getting that momentum back after.
Hold those thoughts, Yancy. We're going to take a quick break. I want you to come back about how important the bowl game is, because they set the tone, and we all know it after this.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we are back. Billy Robertson in Brookhaven, not Atlanta. I'm telling you what, Yancy Porter, Oxford, Mississippi, not Memphis. And Yancy, talk sporty to me. You were on a roll talking about that bowl game, Texas Tech and Ole Miss, but they do set the tone, man. I mean, look, do you ever go into work and go, I don't care if I make money or lose money today. I don't care. Shoot, I go in every day expecting to win. I mean, I expect to win at everything I do. And it's unfathomable to me that you've got 19, 20-year-olds. If I ever played on a team with someone like that when I was in second grade baseball, we would have piled up on them and whipped them. Go ahead, Yancy. You were on the roll. Talk sporty to us.
Well, Rob, again, ending the season the way that Ole Miss did, I think this bowl game's more important than your normal bowl game with the expectations of next year, how you ended the season this year. They really need to get that momentum, and I think it won't wash away all the bad taste of the 2022 season, after starting 7-0 and being 8-1 there. But it will definitely give them some momentum and good taste in the mouth and really try to catch a little more momentum in this portal and grab a couple more pieces to the class they feel like they need to round out in the portal and really gear up, for a lot of expectations in this 2023 season.
Yeah. Billy Roberts jumped back in here with Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline.
Yeah, obviously I'm disappointed as an Auburn guy that Lane Kiffin decided to stay at Ole Miss because all of the reports were that we had him and then we didn't. So my question is, and I'm going to give you a theory, and since you're close to the program, I want to see if you believe this to be true or if I don't know. So I think that this whole triangle transaction with Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin, and Auburn and Ole Miss came down to the triumph of the agent, Sexton. This is what I think might have happened. I believe that he probably said to Lane Kiffin, "Flirt with Auburn, I'll get you a raise from Ole Miss. But you need to stay there because when Saban eventually retires, you could be in, the pole position to become the coach at Alabama. So stay where you're at, but we'll get you a raise. All you got to do is flirt with Auburn. And then we'll bring in Hugh Freeze, who's my other client, who needs to be rehabilitated a little bit and kind of climb back up the slippery slope that he was on to get to the top. And Auburn's a perfect spot for a guy like that. So we're going to place him there. I saw this as like a chess play by Sexton. Is that kind of how it went? Do you think that Kiffin was really serious about Auburn and it was just him trying to prove the media wrong by saying, you guys were reporting it all wrong and I never was going to go there? What really do you think behind the scenes happened there?
That really is a Lane question. I don't think that Auburn was a good fit for Lane. I think Hugh is a perfect fit. I think Hugh was a perfect fit there for Auburn in the retrospect that, Lane likes to have total autonomy of the program like Saban does at Alabama. There is nobody close to Lane. There's no alumni involvement. There's no administration involvement. Lane has 100% control of the program, and nobody meddles in that program but Lane Kiffin. As we all know, the last program in the world for a coach that has that style is Auburn. Auburn likes to have the alumni that are involved. Auburn wants, to go War Eagle and go to the alumni functions and really talk up the program. And that's just not a fit for Lane. Where someone likes Hugh Freeze, and he embellishes in it. He loves that. He loves to be involved with the alumni. He loves to go duck hunting with all the guys. He loves to go play golf with all the Auburn alumni. He loves to go to the alumni meetings and really talk it up. He's going to say War Eagle everywhere he goes. And Jimmy knows that. Jimmy knows what's a good fit, not a good fit. Maybe he did do that to get him a lane. I meant a raise for Lane. I don't think you have to do that. I think his raise was coming regardless. But there's no doubt that Jimmy was probably angling for Freeze to get that job at Auburn. He knows who was a good fit for Auburn, and it certainly wasn't Lane, and it certainly is Hugh Freeze. There's no doubt about it 100% that Auburn hired the right guy for their university in Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, it looks like this is a rare win-win, situation that people talk about that a lot, but it's rarely true. But in this case, perhaps it is. And hats off to a great agent to make that happen.
Yeah, and Yancy and Billy, I thought Hugh Freeze, his daughter, enrolled at Auburn, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. He's been going down there a lot, and he'd been seen there a lot. I think Kiffin's a great play caller, great quarterback coach, but I too agree, Freeze a much better fit. I talked to a lot of his friends at a Christmas night that know him very well. And look, people will try to attack him and his character for what happened in the past. And again, ask yourself this, man, if you've ever done anything stupid in your life, you need to come clean with it and apologize for it. And just try not to do it again. And but I think it is a win-win deal. I mean, I'm not in to taking other schools' coaches. I don't, from the conference. I think that's bad blood material. I got a lot of Ole Miss friends, a ton of them. I want to beat them in everything. But if you're a member of a conference, you want every member in the conference to be strong. Now, you want to be stronger than they are on game day. But Yancy, I think Ole Miss, with what they got going on in this football program, this NIL collective. Next question I have is this: a few more minutes before Ben Troupe joins us, and you're certainly welcome to stay on because Big Ben, Gentle Ben, will be on with us. Speaking of Gentle Ben, they finally retired Ben Williams' number at Ole Miss, Yancy. That was a big, big deal. Great defensive lineman for the Rebels. But I got to ask you, how many people joined the Ole Miss? Follow this one, Billy. The Ole Miss NIL collective when all the stuff with Kiffin and Auburn and all, maybe even A&M was going on. How much money have they raised as a result of that at Ole Miss for the NIL and just athletics in general?
Well, in that 3 weeks when all the hoopla was going back, during the end of the season there, they raised a little bit over $10 million and 5,000 new members when there was rumor that that Lane was going to go there to Auburn. So the NIL collective group, the Grow Collective, as it's called, would definitely like to send a thank you note to Jimmy Sexton.
I was going to say, Billy and Yancy, not only is Jimmy Sexton the most powerful man in college athletics, he also is the most powerful man in NIL. This is crazy for a guy who was a student manager at Tennessee and was a suite mate of Reggie White, defensive lineman from Chattanooga, maybe Red Banks High School, or I'm not sure but anyway, and he took that. And when he got Reggie White with the Memphis Showboats to sign up, and then Reggie referred those people to him, Jimmy Sexton has negotiated in his career, I think it's fair to say this, gentlemen, over $1 billion in contracts.
It's amazing. Yeah. And, he definitely, kind of understands what it takes. I think you're right. The comment you made a minute ago is like, with Kiffin, I mean, Auburn needs to back away and give somebody total control, but it'll never happen. That's not the culture there. So you're right. There was some wise, sober thinking going on there with all parties concerned, like who's a good fit and maybe, whose needs are better served elsewhere. But personally, I was excited about Kiffin. I think that was a home run hire when Ole Miss hired him. And Rob knows this. I said that several years ago. I'm like, I wish we would have gotten him. Yeah. And we still had Malzahn at the time. And like, Kiffin's a great coach. He's exciting. Kids want to play for him. He's obviously gonna dominate something like a transfer portal because he can go, look, my guys are having fun. We're winning, big. And I know what I'm doing. I can prepare you for the NFL. I was an NFL head coach when I was 27 years old or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord, that's the guy I would want to play for. So I'm, good for Ole Miss. I mean, that guy's amazing. And, obviously the excitement level there is off the charts right now.
Yancy, I mean, among Ole Miss people that I know, and I know a lot of them, he gives Ole Miss a chance in every game as a head coach because there are not many like him when it comes to play calling and developing quarterbacks. What does he need to improve on this year?
Well, defensively, they got to become more consistent, and offensively, they got to do a better job at scoring in the red zone. That didn't. You couldn't get a better example there when they had 1st and goal there to beat Alabama there inside 2 minutes. And they didn't score, right? And to be honest, a lot of people put the blame on the whole, the Auburn hoopla with Lane, and I'm sure that did play some kind of effect, but Lane builds a mentality that, hey, we are a playoff program, and that's our only goal. And when they lost that game to Alabama, the playoffs were done. And so there really wasn't a lot to play for in those players and coaches' minds. Now, I know that doesn't, sit well with some Ole Miss fans, but that's that is the reality of it. Lane has that playoff mentality. I personally like it. I like that. Hey, no longer are we shooting for 10-2s, 9-3s, and get into New Year's Day bowl. We want to make the playoffs. So that Alabama game took all the air out of the balloon there when they were sitting 8-1 and they got 1st and goal, and they didn't do it. If you had to go back, I think Lane should have called a timeout there. Junkins had just ran for 64 yards on 2 rushes to get them down to the 10-yard line. That they should have let him rest. Instead, they played decoy for Junkins there. Those last 4 downs, he didn't even touch the ball. And that's where depth issues. So Zach Evans had got a concussion there in the second quarter. He wasn't available there, but getting scoring more in the red zone, touchdowns, not field goals, and being more consistent on defense.
Yeah. Yancy, great stuff as always. Rebel Yell Hotline, catch him Monday nights, 6 to 7 p.m., Super Talk Mississippi. How do they follow you any other way? But I got to say, thank you so much again for taking time out of your Wednesday to join us. We appreciate it more than you'll ever know. You work harder than a dozen Mennonite farmers. Ben Troupe, Gator All-American, NFL 5 years, Coastal, ESPN Coastal over in Savannah from Swainsboro, Georgia, is on here right now listening to you, and he's got on a great-looking hat. And Audrey told me to wear one of my hats, my Stetsons, but Yancy, love having you on here. And how do they follow you?
Just follow me at Yancy Porter and Ben. I love your drip, as my son would say. I like it.
Hey, listen, man. Hey, yes, whatever we can take some of our kids' lingo, man. It makes us feel old, makes them feel worse to be our children. But I'm gonna take it. I will appreciate the drip. I hope your son heard you say it.
I love this guy.
Hey, to be good, God, you got to dress good. You definitely dress good, my man. And I hope all of y'all have a blessed day. Y'all take care.
You have a blessed day too, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family. And I always look at schools and I say the people I know of those schools are the front porch to that university. If you know Yancy Porter, you can't help but pull for Ole Miss. And same thing about the Gators with Ben Troupe. Yancy, take care. All right, Ben Troupe. All right, you mentioned the other day, and Billy Roberts is up here from Brookhaven, not Atlanta. He's right next to Atlanta, but he likes to say he lives in Brookhaven, where my niece lives. And Billy, Ben is a Gator All-American from Swainsboro, Georgia. You ever been to Swainsboro, Billy?
I have one time. Been a long time ago. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Oh, Ben played down there for Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook. Ben, did you mention the other day you had a family member that was in the they're always, you can find a 98-year-old man bedridden and an iron lung that's a Marine, and you make him mad, he'll find a way to get out of there and get you. I'm telling you, that's the way the Marine Corps. But you got strong DNA in your family, leadership, alpha male culture. Like you say, Billy and I were roommates. We were at Auburn together. my son, I took him in to meet with one of the Auburn coaches when he was in school, one of the defensive coaches one day. We were in his office, and Wilson, he's in college, and he said something like, man, that's slaw. And the coach looked at him and said, man, we got to get you on the staff recruiting with us, because like you said, they say a lid for a hat. I've got 4 kids, but I'm telling you what, man, the more you're on here, the more I'm learning. It is all about positive attitude, positive karma, and getting people around you to buy into what you're doing. And Billy and I have had great discussions with Yancy Porter and Doug Dean and Dudley Dawson of hogville.net in the show. Now we're going to switch over to your Gators. I still am so mad, but they kept that streak alive of like 417 straight games without a shutout. Dadgummit, Florida's got every resource in the world. I like Billy Napier. We talked with you. We talked to Franz Beard, the Iron Duke. We talked to Buddy Martin. Is it just a cleaning, a cleansing of getting all the toxins out? Like Audrey, yesterday we were listening to Cowboy Medicine Logic. And this guy said, well, when I was a young'un, Mama used to put an onion in our sock when we were kids. And you take that onion out after a couple of days and it'd be black as coal, all the toxins coming out of your body. Is that what's got to happen at Florida? Because I look at Florida from 10,000 feet above and I'm like, what can you want for at that university?
I think the main thing is, Rob, is expectation is a real thing, and everybody has them. But when you think about a place like the University of Florida, expectations, to me, it has to be something that resonates outside of the school that you coach for. Billy Napier, until he proves it, is going to be seen as Sunbelt Billy. He comes from the Sunbelt. People can't get it out of their mind. It doesn't matter if Cyrus Torrance was the first team All-American or Anthony Richardson got a shot to be the number 1 overall pick, depending on who you asking. And the run game, which was it wasn't even on the stratosphere when Dan Mullen was there. Yeah. You are what your record says you are. You are 6-7. And you're looking at what's going on around you. I heard you guys talking about Ole Miss. When people say no more 10-2 seasons, you know how hard it is to go 10-2?
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to go 9-3? Mm-hmm. And sometimes your best my best doesn't mean we're going to be in Atlanta. My best don't mean we're going to win the West. But if you are Florida, your best has to be these. You have to win the East, beat this juggernaut known as Georgia, and you got to look good doing it. Because right, wrong, and different, you the flagship university in the state of Florida. Like you mentioned, you don't lack anything. People are scratching their head. They're like, you losing recruits to UCF and USF and Miami and Florida State. The reason why it is the product on the field is the best. That's the best bargaining chip you got. If it's out there on the field, you don't got to recruit as hard. My friend said he says, when you get recruited, listen, when you go to UCF, when you go to Kentucky, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break because I don't want to interrupt you, but we've got to take this break. Come back. I want you to finish because you are rolling right after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, Ben, you were on a roll right before the break. Let's keep rolling.
I was just saying that when you go to certain schools, you got to recruit. Schools like Kentucky or Vanderbilt, you got to recruit. You're talking about the Ohio States. You're talking about the Georgias. You just ask. I mean, you want to come here or not? Because the thing about it is you look at what they're doing. If I play receiver, I want to go to Ohio State. If I'm a walk-on that want to have great success, I'm going to Georgia when I look at what Stetson Bennett has done. But it's like this. It's like the Mercedes-Benz commercial during Christmas time. People can't hate it. People hate it because, bro, why I get Mercedes-Benz money around Christmas time? But that's when they put it out because that's when people spend the most money, right? What they're really saying is, look, I know I thought the Slanter had reindeer. He got Mercedes-Benz now. That's how you get from point A to point B, I guess. Yeah. But But the marketing is different at these big-time schools that's winning Kirby Smart said, if you trust me, I can do what Alabama's doing. People go, you crazy. Look at what's going on now, right? Alabama's not going anywhere. Clemson got a shot of going back to just Clemson. And if Clemson has to go to college football playoffs to be relevant. I love Dabo Swinney, what he's doing. But if I play quarterback, I'm going to USC. I got a shot to get coached by Lincoln Riley. This is right now with Florida. What you got right now is we're in the SEC. We the flagship university. We get NIL deals, and we competing in the East for second and third. Not for first. That's gonna have to change because you know how it is, Rob. You are what your record says you are, but bigger than that, you are what these kids say about you. That's what you really are.
Yeah. Billy Roberts jumping here with Ben Troupe from ESPN Coastal down in Savannah. And Billy, I guarantee you've been to Savannah, and you've also been to Miss Wilkes probably to eat some of the best food on the planet. But and some of that low country stew and the incredible seafood over there. But let me say something real quick before you go. This just came in from one of our sponsors of SEC Media Days. We're so proud to be associated with our good friend Maury Gaston of American Cast Iron Pipe Company, talking about all the problems in places like Memphis and other cities where the water mains have broken. You got very old cast iron, older than 100 years in many cases. Temperature deltas put lots of stress on the pipes. You got to replace it with ductile iron, strong yet flexible. Ductile. Think about that. American Cast Iron Pipe Company, our great friend over in Birmingham. Check them out on the web. Maury Gaston will be available to talk to you about it, but they are first-class people. But Billy Roberts, let's roll with Ben Troupe.
Yeah, Ben, great to chat with you. I think every point you make was spot on. You know, I went to high school in LaGrange, and I know that the guys at LaGrange for a number of years, you know, they had their pick of like Georgia, Alabama, Auburn. You know, when I was in school, Vince Sutton went to Alabama. He led an undefeated team at Auburn back at LaGrange before he went off to college. And the thing that I got to be buddies with these guys, and they were like, I want to go somewhere where I can get developed to have a shot at going to the NFL. So I'm looking at, is the head coach have NFL experience? Does the coaching staff have a record of putting, offensive linemen in the NFL, that kind of thing? So I'm assuming that still matters. Can you weigh in on that in addition to all the hoopla and the buzz and all of the other things that kind of dazzle a young teenager, but they're also, a budding businessman there, and they are the product. I imagine that still matters to them. Like if I go to Georgia, I'm looking at all the guys that they put in the NFL, and Auburn and Florida, aren't there right now. It just, but they used to be. I mean, both of those schools have put lots of people in the NFL. So including yourself. So what does that still matter? Is that still a priority?
That's number one. When you talking to parents, that's what you got. Two conversations going on recruiting with the players. You talking about facilities. You talking, hey man, we do this now. We can get your hair cut. That's what matters to us. 70, and we got video games on a big screen. What we got Fortnite. That's what you talking to today. Mommy and daddy are saying, can my son become a household name? Can my son go pro? Because let's face it, I don't care what no one says. Every kid that plays college want to go pro. Every kid ain't going. But if I can't go pro, I can get an academic scholarship if I just want to go to college. No, I am here to play football. I want to be the best student I can. But Bill, if Auburn, when Cam Newton was at Auburn, every quarterback was like, "Hey, dude, I want to go to Auburn." Problem is, you ain't Cam. Yeah. But he helped with the marketing. Because at the end of the day, we don't know. The reason why you get 85 guys and 25 guys a year, man, we don't know. We don't know. No one saw Lamar Jackson doing that at Louisville, right? It's easy to talk about him. You see how once a player become a player, he looks like that player. Oh, he reminds me of Lamar Jackson. No, he don't. He reminds me of Tim Tebow. No, he does not. But they're using these guys' names right now to recruit. The best players at the school, I came out with Ronnie Browne and those guys in high school. Ronnie Browne, 2nd overall pick. Cadillac was the 5th overall pick. Well, Jason Campbell was the 1st round pick. Carlos Rogers was the 1st round pick. So you got tradition on your side as well as what's going on right now. Auburn's one of the top schools in the country. It don't matter what they do. Certain schools, it matters what they do during the year. Auburn will benefit from a bad year. I don't know. That Harsin situation to me don't make any sense. You got to think about the recruits that's coming in. That was the craziest offseason I seen last year to just bring it back in 2022 to fire him. You set your school every year you use the word rebuild. How many years does that take? I mean, so I do agree. It does always come down to, can they go to the NFL? How many people are you putting in the NFL? How many people at that position? Georgia put 5 in the freaking first round last year. That's 2001 Miami type stuff, man.
Yeah.
That stuff don't happen but it's always going to be the same thing. It's head coach, it's school, it's NFL, it's recruiting, it's facilities, in that order. Because if you don't think you go to Alabama because I want to play for Nick Saban, you crazy. I want to play for this dude. I want to play for Kirby. I want to play for – when people get known for one thing, what's up, Coach Saban? Or what's up, Lane? What's up, Lincoln? What's up, Kirby? That's big. That's the biggest thing. Kirby Smart, if he couldn't coach at Georgia, he's a regular guy. Now, this dude hate one thing, having to not to have to take that visor off. He hated. Did you see him when he got on suits? He don't want you to see how his hair is. He's like, look, man, let's get this thing over so I can go. They're coaches, man. They want to coach. I respect it. But like I said, if I'm the number one seller in a company, when I walk in a room, everybody knows me. They don't know like how I do it. They want to know. They don't care that I do it. They want to know how I do it. And that's all recruiting is. How do y'all do this year in and year out? Name a team not named TCU that's making it to the college football playoff. I hope TCU plays well, but isn't it crazy that your consolation prize is I got to play Georgia, I got to play Alabama. Well, I'm best good, so my best team ever might not win the chip, but now I get to see how good these guys are, because consistently good over a long period of time is much better than having a great season. Because certain schools will have a great year, but man, to beat Alabama, that's why Georgia's good. Georgia, like, dude, we got to beat them. Forget Florida and Tennessee. We got to beat them. And if we can beat them, we can beat anybody. So we'll see what happens. But I know we're going to 12 teams here real soon, right? Yeah. So 12 teams going to get in. But watch who ends up winning. It's going to be the same. If you wasn't winning when it was 4, you ain't going to win it when they add 8 to the pot. You're going to get to go somewhere and play. But, man, I'm telling y'all, man, these coaches don't make $10 and $12 million a year. Pretty soon we're gonna have a $20 million head coach in college football. I remember when it was $1 million, people thought that was just out of this world. Yeah, $1 million go to coordinators now. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, once your mind expands from its original size and goes up here, it never reverts back to that old size comfortably. Once you win conference and national championships at Auburn or Alabama or Georgia or Florida or LSU, Tennessee, whatever, you ain't ever going to be comfortable with anything short of a national championship. But you got to, as long as the team is putting forth the effort, that's what you look for in a program. And, you talk about something else too, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You think about that. I mean, the last 2 years, Chet Williams built a great program over that, the chaplaincy training program they have at Auburn. I think the last 2 years when Brian Harsin was there, I never heard a word about it. And Ben, you talk about that as a player. I mean, how important that is. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And, you're not proselytizing these guys. You're opening them up. But, when Cadillac Williams, what he said about serving others and just the way he carries himself. I mean, he's all of us. I said that on Twitter every day. Cadillac is all of us. He loves his school. And I think people forget, and Billy and I watch this, and you do too, Ben, how much these kids love it. When you go back to Gainesville, as soon as you cross that Alachua County line and you get near campus, I bet you're going bonkers, aren't you?
Oh, it's wild. It's wild. Because I was one of them ones that was in these seats, and I see where it's going. And I tell them all the time, every time I get a chance to interview these current players, I said, man, y'all so bougie now. Y'all live in the burbs, man. Y'all boys, y'all eating asparagus and Y'all meet me at the hot tub, meet me at the coat. But at the same time, I was at Florida when they retired Emmitt Smith's jersey at our spring game. And he said, get a good look at this, because 5 years from now, it used to be 10. Now 5, it's not going to look like this. He said, when I was here, we stayed at the stadium. We lived underneath the stadium. Now, but I'm happy for the guys, though. And I think the main thing I know I serve now, Bill and Rob, is I have to show these young boys that life away from football is just as grand as when you're there. If I'm real mopey and I'm mad and they're going to be like, dude, I'm letting them know, hey, man, as much fun as you have, play as long as you can play. But when I tell you, your life will start when football is over. So that's what I represent. I represent the other side of things, and everybody think they want to be in media now. I said, listen, man, get you a podcast, leave it alone. You don't want to be in media, because media is going to the games, interviewing the coaches and the players, having a relationship with people that's been, because I'm a pro in football. I'm not a pro in media. So I need a Rob Browne to say, Rob, man, how can I better that's the hard thing that most players, they don't want to let people know I need help. in their new profession. Yeah, I can talk X's and O's, but how do I talk to? I had to interview Kirby Smart the year after they lost to 2018 when they lost the national championship. I had to interview him, and I had to interview Gene Chizik. That's my first SEC. That's my first SEC media days. I'm like, Gene Chizik is standing in front of me. He sits down, and my producer goes, "I mean, you got him." I'm like, "What? What's up, coach?" Never interviewed nobody. But the first thing I said was, "Man, how was it to coach a guy like Cam?" That's the only thing popped in my head.
Yeah.
But I also said, "How do you go from coaching Cam in the national championship in 2 years? You fired." And he was all big. That's college football. I went from winning it to gone. He said, well, you can't go undefeated and then lose every game. That's how you lose your job. So, I admire it because I admire both the former player aspect, but I admire you guys because media is a real thing, man. For people, the beat writers and the SIDs, this thing don't stop. Every time I'm at my house and my kids see me on the phone, they think Daddy's on the radio again. Daddy's doing. I said, Daddy's trying to make sure y'all can get these Jordans for Christmas. That's what Daddy's trying to do.
Well, hey, I got to ask you this, Billy. You know, I was talking to Takeo Spikes at SEC Media Days. Do you know Takeo? Ben, do you know Takeo Spikes?
I know of him. I've never met him in person. Him and that's the Washington County boys. Him and Robert and Terrence Edwards, man. Takeo looked like the type of person. If I did meet him, I'm doing my best not to make him mad. He always looked like he's ready for some. I said, like, I don't want no trouble, man. You know, but love what he's doing. I love what he's doing.
I just and we have Roman Harper on the show and different people. But Billy, jump in here along with what Ben is saying. It's about being grateful for what you got and not complaining about what you don't have, but you know, keeping things in perspective. But I just love the energy, what Ben's talking about when you talk to these coaches and you know you've arrived when you're just a one-namer. Cadillac, Bo, Cam, Herschel, Buck, you know, names like that. And you know, this is the stuff like he's talking about off the field. When you finish your career, you know, when you're 26 or 27, you're probably done with football for most people. If you even make it to the NFL, which is a small percentage, you got your whole life ahead of you.
Well, absolutely. You know, and the nice thing about college is, you know, and Auburn uses the term Auburn family and Gator, you know, Gator Nation. You know, the fans, you know, it's multi-generational fans a lot of times, and they remember the players, and you know, you will be embraced forever. You know, I mean, I don't think Tebow's ever going to pay for another, you know, meal in Gainesville, right? You know, I went down there for his last game. My dad graduated from Florida in the School of Engineering, and several years ago they had the 75th anniversary of the School of Engineering, and they invited all the alumni to come, and it just happened to be Tebow's last game, and I think Vanderbilt was the opponent, and just the cult of Tim Tebow down there was breathtaking to watch. I mean, he was embraced by all the fans and the players. He's a folk hero, like a Paul Bunyan kind of guy, and it'll always be that way. Same thing with Emmitt Smith. I mean, you know, Rob and I thought Emmitt Smith was coming to Auburn, you know, and
we did.
And all of a sudden he was at Florida. Now, you know, he was from Pensacola, and that's probably closer to Auburn than it is Gainesville. And you know, Bo was leaving, and he would have been the heir apparent to Bo Jackson at that time. So we still have a soft spot for Emmitt Smith because we were hoping he'd be an Auburn Tiger. But you know, in the NFL, you know, the great players, you know, those guys are revered maybe as much as you know, the college players are. But I think college guys, you know, if they stay around the program and go back, they're going to be embraced forever. You mentioned Jason Campbell a minute ago. Rob and I tailgated with him more than once this past season because he's on the Auburn radio broadcast, and their broadcast tent right outside the stadium was right next to where we were tailgating. We talked to him every weekend, all during the fall. What a great guy, you know, and Auburn people love him, and we'll never forget, you know, what a great player he was. So that is something that hopefully when guys are being recruited, they will take that seriously. You know, like you said, you know, if you go down there and you play hard, you got a great attitude, you'll be beloved forever. And then job opportunities come from that. You know, somebody's going to say, hey, I got a State Farm Insurance Agency. I'd love for you to come be part of that. Because all the alumni know who you are. You got instant name recognition. You got a brand.
Yeah.
You know,
Ben,
that's a great way to see what life beyond football could be about.
Yeah. And Ben, look, we're about out of time. I want to say, go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. You'll get richer for it. Don't give to get, give to give, because most often we're going to see the face of Christ in the least among us. And Ben, I love having you on here. We got to start getting longer segments with you. And God bless, man, the wit and wisdom that comes out of your mouth, and you speak with such conviction, but you got great parents, and you got a great book, Uncommon and Unfinished. Tell people how they can follow you in the last minute that we have. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share it with us and our listeners and our viewers.
Always go to bentroupe84.com to get you a copies also in every major retailer that sells books. And Uncommon and Unfinished it's just me saying thank you to the people, places, and things that helped me become who I become, from teammates, coaches, friends, family. It's hard to put your whole life up until this point in one book. I hope I did it justice. If I left you out, man, I feel like winning the Academy Award for Best Actor, man. I'm not gonna thank everybody, man, but I you in my heart. I appreciate it. But hey, man, I appreciate you, Rob, man, giving me a chance. Like I said, nobody told me that this part of my life will be way more exciting. People go, you don't miss football? No, I don't get to get hit. I ain't got no game plans. I get to wake up and talk trash about how good I think I was. I get to do that all day. I can do that. I can tell you what I would have done because I don't got to go out. I'm going to challenge my kids today into a race. But some kind of way, we're not going to make it on that track. Some kind of way.
Yeah. Ben, how tall are you? 6'3", 6'4"?
I'm 6'5".
Oh, shit. How much do you weigh now? About 210, 212?
No, man, shoot, I'm still up there in like the 260s, 270s, man. I'm still up there. But at the same time, too, right? The reason why I don't want to be all super duper ripped up, because listen, man, I had to do that for a living. I'm gonna eat my carbs. You go eat your celery smoothie. You and Tom Brady, y'all can have that life.
Amen. Ben, I love you, man. We let's do it again. You gotta love it. Go Gators, Gator Nation. Ben Troupe, All-American. An All-American man and father and husband. So we're lucky we got him on here. Hey, everybody have a great day. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you tomorrow.